Former President Donald Trump must secure a bond for a whopping $454 million in the New York civil fraud case judgment. But his legal team says the amount is excessive. They are urging the court to delay the enforcement of the judgment. But will the courts listen to Donald Trump? Can he avert the authorities from seizing up his most prized asset, his real estate? Our next report tells you more.
Donald J. Trump, former U.S. president and billionaire real estate mogul. With business spanning an empire of skyscrapers, hotels, casinos, and golf courses. But ever since Trump's tenure ended at the White House, he is caught up in unending legal battles. Or as he says, fighting a political witch hunt. However he chooses to describe them, Trump's legal cases are costing him money, at least $500,000 in penalties, an amount that grows by $112,000 per day. The New York civil fraud case judgment is the biggest challenge to his personal wealth. For now, he has until March end to come up with the funds, or face seizure of his assets.
The New York Attorney General's office won a $450 million judgment against Trump, and they can immediately start enforcing that judgment. By enforcing that judgment, I mean sending out the marshal or the sheriff to seize assets. Attorney General's office has said that they would give him a 30-day grace period, but there's no requirement to give that grace. And anyway, those 30 days are coming up next week.
Trump's lawyers claim the former U.S. president is unable to get a bond of $454 million. Despite negotiating with 30 underwriters, the lawyers urged the court to delay enforcement of the judgment, while claiming Trump can post a $100 million bond, arguing that a lending ban in the February 16 verdict is making it impossible for Trump to secure a bond for the full amount. That does not leave Trump with too many options except putting up the entire amount in cash.
This was a rigged trial by a crooked judge and a crooked attorney general, and we're fighting it out with them. We have a lot of cash and we have a great company, but they want to take it away, or at least take the cash element away. Billions of dollars in value, billions of dollars in properties, but they'd like to take the cash away so I can't use it on the campaign. And this is just a corrupt group of people.
On the other hand, Trump can secure a bond that would guarantee the payment if he were to lose his appeal. Although, the fees charged by the company could also prove costly for him. So Trump must either find the cash or post a bond. Else, be forced to sell priced real estate properties in a fire sale. The $454 million judgment is not Trump's only legal penalty. In a separate case in January, Donald Trump was ordered to pay $83 million after losing a defamation case to E. Jean Carroll, a woman he had allegedly abused sexually. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Okay, well, for more on all of this, we are being joined by Nick Ackerman from New York. Nick is a former Watergate prosecutor and assistant U.S. attorney. He's a lawyer, and he is joining us from New York. Thank you so much for joining us on WION. Is there any way former President Donald Trump can prevent the authorities from seizing his assets to satisfy this judgment? Or do you think he'll be forced to surrender control of his properties to meet these massive bond requirements?
Well, the only way he's going to prevent it is if he gets the entire appeals court to let him have some kind of leeway here, either in terms of a lesser bond or more time. More time isn't going to help him. Normally, anybody who has a judgment against them does not get a lesser bond. So I think unless he comes up with cash between now and next week, $500,000 in cash, the Attorney General is going to start proceedings against his properties, his bank accounts. It's a pretty simple procedure. It's a matter of putting restraining notices on bank accounts and on properties, although there are some, probably a lot to be done with the properties since they're probably in LLCs, which means normally, under those circumstances, someone trying to execute a judgment on an LLC is only entitled to the proceeds that the individual's interests accrue in that LLC. However, there is an exception if they can pierce the corporate veil, that is to show that Donald Trump really controls those LLCs for each of these properties and that he has set it up as a way to prevent his properties from being seized. So more to be seen on this next week, but I think he's looking at having these seizures go forward at this point.
And what does this mean politically moving forward for the former president, but also for Letitia James as well? We see videos and constant reminder that she really campaigned on, quote unquote, getting Donald Trump.
Well, I don't think she campaigned on getting Donald Trump. She campaigned on basically bringing him to justice wherever she can. It was part of a joint investigation with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which resulted in the indictment that's going to be going to trial sometime in the next month. It also resulted in this fraud case. So there was nothing about getting him. He's been a fraudster for a long period of time. It started back in the early 90s when he filed bankruptcy in his casinos in New Jersey, and started in the early 90s in terms of not only the bankruptcies, but in order to get cash, he set up a tax scam, basically evading taxes by arranging for his father's money to be distributed to him and his siblings so they wouldn't have to pay gift tax. And then when he couldn't get money through legitimate means, which he couldn't after those bankruptcies, he wound up borrowing money from the Russians and set up a property such as Trump Soho that was, in effect, a fraud on the purchasers of those properties and would have resulted in an indictment but for the fact that he provided a $30,000 campaign contribution to the DA at the time. And since then, he's had to actually get money from legitimate banks because the Russian money dried up. And so that led him to falsify his financial statements, which is where we are today with this massive judgment. So in some ways, nobody got Donald Trump except Donald Trump.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.